Okay, good morning everyone. We'll start with the general structure of GIT. Okay, stop talking. We'll start with the general structure of GIT. Okay, now general structure means histological structure of GIT. We know that GIT is a tubular structure. Okay, so any tubular structure, if you take the cross section, as I said, you will be getting certain layers, and those layers are situated from inside to out. So from inside to outside, if you see the layers, how many layers are there in GIT? 4 basic layers are there, and this is common for entire GIT. Okay, it is common for entire GIT. Now there may be some modifications or there may be some changes, but mostly these 4 basic layers are present. Okay, now what are those layers? First, mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, adventitia or serosa. Okay, stop talking. Now if you see the mucosa, it is made up of 3 distinct layers. What are those layers? Lining epithelium, lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. These 3 layers together, they will constitute the mucosa. Okay. Next, submucosa is there, and the submucosa is made up of dense irregular connective tissue. Okay. So the innermost layer will be the mucosa, and mucosa is made up of 3 distinct layers. Okay. Now these 3 distinct layers are visible under microscope. In mucosa में कितना layers है? 3 layers, and those 3 layers are visible under microscope. Okay, that means you have to see the lining epithelium, you have to see the propria, and you have to see the muscularis mucosae, and then you have to distinguish between the layers. Next, in submucosa, we are getting the dense irregular connective tissue. Along with that, a important nerve plexus is present, that is called as Meissner's plexus. I hope you have heard about this Meissner's plexus. If you have not heard, please read about the Meissner's plexus. What is Meissner's plexus? What is the function of this particular plexus? Next is the muscularis externa. Okay, in muscularis externa, in case of GIT, 2 different layers are present, and muscularis externa is made up of smooth muscle only. Okay, where 2 different layers are present. Now what are those layers? As you can see, inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer. Smooth muscle only, but the arrangement is different. Inner layer is circular, outer layer is longitudinal, means circularly arranged and longitudinally arranged smooth muscle fibers. Okay, but as I said, there will be some modification. Okay, if you take the example of stomach, 3 layers are there instead of 2 layers. Okay, additional 1 oblique layer is present in case of stomach. Okay, lastly we are getting the serosa or adventitia. Okay, now where connective tissue is there, and in case of serosa, it is covered by simple squamous epithelium, that is mesothelium, nothing but the peritoneum. Now can anyone tell me what is the difference between serosa and adventitia? Serosa adventitia same nahi hai, it is not same. Though it is written, oblique is given and then serosa is written, doesn't mean that serosa and adventitia are same. It is not same. Now what do you think, what will be the difference? Adventitia matlab connective tissue covering, serosa matlab it is covered by peritoneum. Now you have studied the peritoneum chapter, you have studied the folds of peritoneum, right? Now and then you have also studied some structures are intraperitoneal, some structures are retroperitoneal. Okay, that means, and you have also studied bare areas, right? You have studied bare area of liver, bare area of stomach. Bare area का मतलब क्या है? Yes, this side last bench, bare area का meaning क्या है? No peritoneum. That means peritoneum नहीं है. So the part in which peritoneum नहीं रहता, it is not covered by peritoneum, there you will be getting the adventitia. Correct, right? And the part which is covered by peritoneum, which is intraperitoneal, there you will be getting the serosa. Okay. Now, so these 4 basic layers are there. Okay. As we will go into the various parts of the GIT, okay, we will see that modifications are taking place in these layers. Okay, one by one. Now this is a 3D diagram. Now in this 3D diagram you can see all the layers. So as I said, the GIT is in the form of a tube, right? And here you can see it is also in a form of a tube, and all the layers can be seen. So first layer is mucosa. How the mucosa is made? It is made up of 3 distinct layers. What are these 3 layers? First is the lining epithelium, then lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. अभी ये जो muscularis mucosae है, this layer, this muscularis mucosae, can anyone tell me it is made up of what? Muscularis mucosae. That means it is also made up of smooth muscle layer. Okay. तो यहाँ पे भी स्मूथ मसल्स रहता है. इन मस्कुलरिस एक्सटर्ना ऑल्सो स्मूथ मसल्स आर प्रेजेंट. ओके, बट दिस पर्टिकुलर लेयर इज वेरी थिन एज कंपेयर टू द मस्कुलरिस एक्सटर्ना, बट इट इज ऑल्सो हैविंग ए इम्पॉर्टेंट फंक्शन. So here you can see these 3 distinct layers will form the mucosa. After that submucosa is there. See, submucosa. Now submucosa is made up of dense irregular connective tissue. Okay, and in some cases in the submucosa you can see glands are there, mucus secreting glands are there. That's why some cut section of the glands are also shown over here. Not entire GIT, some part of the GIT. In case of submucosa, glands are present. Best example is esophagus, then duodenum, where in the submucosa you will be getting the glands. ठीक है. After submucosa, what you can see? This is the muscularis externa, and in submucosa only this yellow color things whatever you see, these are the submucosal plexus, or also called as Meissner's plexus. ठीक है. Next, what is this? This is the muscularis externa. तो muscularis externa में क्या रहता है? Smooth muscles, but how they are arranged in 2 different layers, inner circular, outer longitudinal. Okay, that's why you can see 2 layers distinctly they are shown. Now another nerve plexus is present over here in the muscularis externa. I hope you can see the nerves in yellow color, and this is called as myenteric plexus. ठीक है. So 2 plexuses होता है. एक one is Meissner's plexus, another one is myenteric plexus. Everyone please note it down. Take out your notebook, rough book, whatever it is available with you, note it down. No gadgets, as I said, don't use gadgets inside the classroom. Why I am mentioning this? यहाँ से MCQ में questions आता है. Okay, so you have to prepare from that particular angle also, so that you can write the MCQs also. So how many nerve plexuses are there? 2 nerve plexuses are there. The nerve plexus which is present in mucosa, that is called as Meissner's plexus, and in the muscularis externa, myenteric plexus. ठीक है. Now please try to understand the function, why these plexuses are there. The plexus means network of nerve. Here both the components are available, means sympathetic component is there, parasympathetic component is also there. But one twist is, in case of parasympathetic component we are getting parasympathetic ganglia over there. Okay, so the fibers mainly from the vagi, whatever they are coming, they will rely on the parasympathetic ganglia. From there the fibers which are coming out, those are post ganglionic parasympathetic fibers. They will go and they will supply. Now which part they will supply? So the first one which is there, that is the Meissner's plexus. What is the function? They will control the secretion. Okay, they will control the absorption. Secretion and absorption जो होता है, that is controlled by the Meissner's plexus. ठीक है. Next जो myenteric plexus है, इसका function क्या है? It will control the motility. It will control the motility, the movement, the peristalsis movement. That will be controlled by the myenteric plexus. Okay, that's why 2 different plexuses are present. One for secretion and absorption, another is for motility. Okay, so these are the 2 different layers of smooth muscles, that will constitute the muscularis externa. Okay, or smooth muscle layer, followed by which layer is this? Serosa or adventitia. So already I have told you the difference between serosa and adventitia. जहाँ पे पेरिटोनियम लाइनिंग है, that is called serosa. जहाँ पे पेरिटोनियम लाइनिंग नहीं है, that is called adventitia. Okay, so we have seen the layers and what is present in these layers. Next, if you see the entire GIT, okay, starting if you start from the esophagus and if you go up to the anal canal, then there will be some changes, some modifications in these particular layers. Okay, so what are those changes, what are those modifications are taking place? Okay, overall we will be discussing now, followed by the esophagus and stomach. Okay, so we will start with the mucosa. So how the mucosa is formed? Three distinct layers are there. देखो ये by heart करना है. Okay, at any point of time if anyone asks you what are the four basic layers, okay, before completing the question you have to answer. So by heart accordingly. ठीक है, तो generally four basic layers are there. ठीक है, generally four basic layers are there, but if you include these three, so total कितना हो जाता है? 7 होता है. Okay, so by heart accordingly. And if any shortcut is required, generally it is not given in the book. If any shortcut is required, you can ask, I will share the shortcut. Okay, mnemonics, if it is required. If not, then it's okay. This four layer: mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, externa and adventitia. Okay, and in case of mucosa, these three distinct layers are present. Okay, don't worry, you don't have to take the photograph. This already I have shared in the group. Okay, every day after taking the class I used to share the PPT with your CR. Okay, it is with him, so it is his responsibility to share it in the group. ठीक है, उसको पूछो, ये लास्ट वीक को मैंने दे दिया था उसको. Okay, so first is the mucosa. In mucosa, three distinct layers are there: lining epithelium, lamina propria and muscularis mucosae. Okay, now what do you think, what will be the lining epithelium of the GIT? What will be the lining epithelium of the GIT? Yes, very good, simple columnar epithelium. Now one thing is common in case of GIT, that is if you see the lining epithelium, okay, most of the part of the GIT it is simple columnar epithelium, that also mucus secreting, most of the part, not entire. Some parts are there where this simple columnar epithelium is absent. Which part? Esophagus and lower part of the anal canal. Now the question is why simple columnar epithelium is not present in the esophagus and in the lower part of the anal canal? Yes, very good. What else? Secretion भी नहीं होता है. Okay. Next, the most important part is friction. Esophagus में और lower part of anal canal में friction ज़्यादा होता है as compared to any other part of the GIT. That's why lining epithelium is different. That is stratified. Okay. तो जो esophagus है, what is the lining epithelium of the esophagus? It is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Okay, same in case of lower part of the anal canal, but other part, entire GIT, same simple columnar epithelium. Okay, so it is a commonality that in most of the part, for example stomach, small intestine, large intestine, lining epithelium same, simple columnar epithelium, mucus secreting. Okay, rest in case of esophagus and terminal part of the anal canal, it is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Okay, what is the reason? Already I have mentioned. Now the simple columnar epithelium जो रहता है, what is the main function? Three important functions are there, as you can see: protection, absorption and secretion. Okay, so what is the protection? Protection means the mucus which is secreting. As I said, it is simple columnar epithelium, that also mucus secreting. ठीक है. Now the secretion which is taking place, that will protect the mucosa from acid and the enzymes which are present in the various part of the GIT. That's why it is protective in nature. Next क्या है? Absorption. Absorption, as you know, absorption is done. Today only I have mentioned in the class. If you see the small intestine, epithelium of the small intestine, they are called as enterocytes. What is the lining epithelium? Simple columnar epithelium. But on their surface, what is present? Microvilli are present. Okay, they help in absorption. Okay, so that is the absorptive function. And what is the secretion? There are various parts of the GIT where we are getting different types of glands. For example, gastric glands are there, intestinal glands are there, वहाँ से secretion होता है. Okay, so these are three important functions of the epithelium. Next, in case of GIT for absorption, okay, जो GIT है, GIT में जो absorption होता है, for that some modifications are there. Now what are those modifications? Mostly we have discussed in the class today. Can you tell me what are the modification? First modification is extensive length. What is the length of small intestine? Approximately 6 meters. Approximately 6 meters. So just see, extensive length is there of the GIT. ये क्यों रहता है extensive length? Because it helps facilitate in absorption. Next, what we have seen, if you see the internal structure of the small intestine, उसमें क्या रहता है? Circular folds are there. These are called as plica circularis or valves of Kerckring. क्यों रहता है? Again for absorption. Okay, because what it will do, it will slow down the passage of the food through it. Okay, and it will also increase the surface area so that the absorption can take place. Next, another modifications are there. These are nothing but the finger-like projections, which are called as villi. Today we have discussed about the villi, structure of villus, what is present inside the villus. Okay, these are nothing but the modification. Next, on the enterocytes, microvilli are present. Again, helps in absorption. Okay, so these are various modifications which you can see in the various part of the small intestine. Okay, mainly in the small intestine for absorption, and we know the small intestine is a part of GIT. Okay, so all those things are mentioned over here. Next is the lamina propria. Okay, so lamina propria is mainly made up of loose connective tissue which will support the epithelium. If loose connective tissue is there, then what will be present? Blood vessels are there, lymphatics are there, nerves are there. Okay, now aggregation of lymphoid follicles which are present in the lamina propria, that is called as of GIT, that is called as GULT, that is gut associated lymphoid tissue. Same thing we have studied in case of trachea, if you remember. At that time it was called as BULT, bronchus associated lymphoid tissue. We have studied, I have explained, yes. Now here, though it is in case of GIT, that's why it is called as GULT, gut associated lymphoid tissue. Function same hai. Okay, as you can see, major role in protection, phagocytosis and antibody secretion. Okay, that and this can be seen where? In the lamina propria. Now this particular feature is well developed or well marked in jejunum. Okay, and it is called as Peyer's patches. It is called as Peyer's patches. In case of jejunum and in case of ileum also. In jejunum, solitary lymph nodes are there, and in case of ileum, aggregation of lymph nodes are there. Okay, and that aggregation size is approximately 1 to 2 millimeter. Okay, and that is forming the Peyer's patches. Next, the lamina propria in some areas, for example, stomach and in case of intestine. Okay, तो जो surface epithelium है वहाँ से it is going down deep into the lamina propria to form a depression, and these are called as, in case of stomach it is called as pits, and in case of intestine these are called as crypts or crypts of liver cone. Okay, in case of intestine these are called as crypts, in case of stomach it is called as pits. Okay, so I know you have studied the internal structure of stomach where you have seen the gastric rugae. In between the gastric rugae, small depressions are there which are called as gastric pits. Deep to the gastric pits, what is present? Gastric glands are present. Multiple glands are opening into one single pit. Okay, next is the muscularis mucosa. Now this layer is very important. So muscularis mucosa जो होता है, it is also made up of smooth muscle cells or smooth muscle fibers are present. ठीक है? Now this particular layer which is present, and this is a part of mucosa only. Now the question is, why this particular smooth muscle cells are important, means why it is present. Okay. So, the reason is whenever you are eating something, okay, as through esophagus as it will go to the stomach, after that what will happen? Whenever you are eating something, first you will chew the food, it will mix with saliva, bolus formation hoga, and that bolus formation through esophagus where it will go? Stomach में जाएगा, as simple as that. इसके बाद क्या होता है? Any idea? हाँ, तो स्टमक में जो गैस्ट्रिक ग्लैंड्स है वहाँ से सिक्रेशन होगा, राइट, देन दैट सिक्रेशन विल मिक्स विद द फूड बोलस, या काइम फॉर्मेशन होता है. नाउ ये जो मिक्सिंग होता है वो कैसे होता है? विद द हेल्प ऑफ दिस मस्कुलरिस म्यूकोसा. नो, पेरिस्टोलिसिस अलग है, देयर डिफरेंस. पेरिस्टोलिसिस से क्या होता है? वंस एवरीथिंग इज डन विद द हेल्प ऑफ पेरिस्टोलिसिस इट विल प्रोपेल द फूड इनटू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. ओके. मस्कुलरिस म्यूकोसा में जो स्मूथ मसल सेल्स रहता है, व्हाट इट विल डू? इट विल हेल्प इन मिक्सिंग ऑफ द फूड बोलस विद द local content or with the content of the either intestine or of the stomach. Okay. So we know that inside the stomach gastric glands are there. Gastric glands से continuous secretion होता है. So it has to be mixed with the food bolus. Then only further digestion will take place. तो कैसे mix होगा? You can't put your hand inside to mix it. Whenever you are eating something, you used to mix with your hand or spoon, whatever it is available, and then we eat. Once it is going to the stomach, stomach में भी secretion हो रहा है, तो it has to mix with the food. तो वो कैसे mix होगा? This particular layer is mixing the food, okay, with the gastric content or the intestinal content, okay, so that the digestion can take place easily. Now here you can see it consists of an inner layer which the muscle fibers are arranged circularly and the outer layer in which muscle fibers are longitudinally. Here also two distinct layers are present, and this particular layer is well developed in stomach. This particular layer is well developed in stomach, but if you see this particular layer, it is not well developed in esophagus. Can you tell me why it is not well developed in esophagus? Because esophagus में digestion नहीं होता है, absorption भी नहीं होता है, तो and this acidic content or some enzymes whatever it is secreted वो भी नहीं होता है in esophagus. So it is not required. That's why that particular layer is not well developed in esophagus. Okay, next is a submucosa. So it is made up of dense irregular connective tissue. Okay, where you can see blood vessels, lymphatics, and occasionally glands are present. So glands कहाँ पे रहता है? Not all the parts, some part, for example esophagus and duodenum. In these particular structures only you can see submucosal glands. Okay. For example in stomach you can't see any glands. Stomach का जो submucosa होता है, in that particular layer no glands are present, but it is present in case of esophagus and it is present in duodenum. Okay, so these are also some important identifying features. Next, submucosa में important plexus रहता है, that is called Meissner's plexus. So what is Meissner's plexus? Already we have discussed. Now submucosa will allow the movement of mucosa over the muscularis externa. Now muscularis externa, two distinct layers are there, that is inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer. That is normal, but there are some modification. First modification already I have mentioned, that is in case of stomach, where three different layers are there. First is oblique, then circular, and then outer longitudinal. Okay, three different layers are there. Next, ये जो circular layers होता है, circular smooth muscle layer होता है, in some areas they are thickened to form sphincter. Example is pyloric sphincter. You have studied about the pyloric sphincter of stomach. वो कैसे form होता है? The thickening of the smooth muscle layer of the muscularis externa. Okay. Next, in case of large intestine, the longitudinal fibers form prominent bundles, and these are called as tinea coli, which can be seen easily. When you will study large intestine, okay, at that time you will come to note that three important identifying features are there of the large intestine, externally, not microscopically. Okay. These are appendices epiploicae, tinea coli, hostrations or seculations. These are the three important identifying features of large intestine externally. Okay. Among them, this tinea coli, these are formed by the longitudinal fibers which are very prominent in a large intestine, okay, that is called as tinea coli. Okay, and here you can see sphincters are formed, pyloric sphincter, ileocecal valve, internal anal sphincter, etc. So these are some modifications of which layer? Muscularis externa. Next, muscularis externa में एक plexus रहता है, this is called as Ayer's based plexus or also called as myenteric plexus. इसका function क्या है? It will control the motility, mainly the peristalsis movement. Okay. Lastly, serosa or adventitia. So that also we have discussed. In case of serosa, that means mesothelium will be there, nothing but a simple squamous epithelium, that is the peritoneum. And in case of adventitia, connective tissue covering is there, where large blood vessels, lymphatics, nerves are passing through it. Okay, that will present in the adventitia. Okay, so that is all about the general structure of GIT along with some modifications. Next, we'll start with the esophagus. Okay. Now, esophagus is a fibromuscular tube. Okay. What is the length? Approximately 25 centimeter. Okay. From where to where it is extending? Where? Which cavity? Na, who said oral cavity? Yes. Continuation of the pharynx. ठीक है. देखो pharynx का 3 पार्ट होता है. Can you tell me what are the parts of the pharynx? Nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. 3 parts are there of the pharynx. Pharynx we will discuss in head and neck chapter. ठीक है. तो जो laryngopharynx है, laryngopharynx का continuation होता है esophagus. Okay. At the level of cricoid cartilage, lower border of C6, 6 cervical vertebra. Okay. From there the pharynx terminates and the esophagus starts. Okay. So some part of the esophagus is present in the neck, some part is present in the thorax, some part is present in the abdomen. जो abdomen वाला part है, it is the smallest, approximately 2.5 to 3 centimeter only, which is present in the abdomen. After that, it is attached with the cardiac end of the stomach. Okay. Please study about the esophagus. Okay, you can expect some questions in the esophagus, because जो esophagus होता है, throughout its length, there are some constriction in the esophagus. Okay, and these are normal constriction. Various areas are there of the esophagus throughout its course. There are some constriction where the normal diameter is not maintained. It is less than the normal diameter, and these are normal. Okay. Now, esophagus is a tubular structure. Okay, so if you take the esophagus is a tubular structure. If you take the esophagus and if you take a cross section, then what do you think? What you can see? You can see the layers. Whatever we have discussed just now, all the layers can be seen. Okay? So though it is a part of GIT, so how many layers will be there? 4 basic layers will be there. As you can see, 4 basic layers are there. It is mucosa will be there, submucosa, muscle coat, adventitia or serosa. Now, can anyone tell me in esophagus what you can see, adventitia or serosa? Why not serosa? Yes, most of the esophagus is situated in the thorax, some part is situated in the neck. Very small portion, that is approximately 2.5 to 3 centimeter is present in the abdomen. So if the section is taken from that part, then you can see the serosa, or else mostly what you will see, adventitia. Okay. Now, another important thing, most of the cases, if you see the lumen of the esophagus, इसका appearance कैसे होता है? Star-like appearance होता है. Lumen of the esophagus means you have taken a cross section, and if you see the lumen, appearance कैसा होगा? Star-shaped appearance होगा. Okay. Next, now from here to here, can anyone tell me which is the innermost layer and which is the outermost layer? So this is the innermost layer and this is the outermost layer. Okay, very good. Now here you can see all the layers. Now in the beginning of the structure of the GIT, I have mentioned that in case of esophagus, what will be the lining epithelium? Stratified, squamous, non-keratinized epithelium. Okay. And in the other part of the GIT, except the lower end of the anal canal, it is simple columnar epithelium. Now if I ask you to differentiate between these two, how will you differentiate? जो सिंपल कोल्यूमिनर इपिथेलियम है और स्ट्रेटिफाइड स्क्वामस नॉन केराटिनाइज्ड है, दोनों में डिफरेंस कैसे करोगे? हाउ विल डिफरेंशिएट? स्ट्रेटिफाइड का मतलब क्या है? सिंपली बोलो, स्ट्रेटिफाइड का मतलब क्या है? हाँ, मल्टीपल लेयर। स्ट्रेटिफाइड का मतलब है मल्टीपल लेयर, सिंपल का मतलब सिंगल लेयर. So like this you can differentiate. Second point is in case of stratified, okay, if you see it is stratified, that's why you can see so many nucleus are there which are present in different layers. But in case of simple columnar you will see the nucleus is present in one layer only, okay, because simple columnar epithelium. तो columnar में क्या होता है? Tall cells are there and nucleus is situated at the basal part of the cell, that also in same level. That's why you will see nucleus mostly present at the same level and एक ही nucleus होगा. Okay, here you can see multiple nuclei are there. Okay, so this is the lining epithelium. Now below lining epithelium, which layer is this? Lamina propria. Okay, now there is a speciality of the lamina propria in case of esophagus. What is that? It is having finger like projections and these are called as papillae. Yes, this side. Why you guys are talking? हाँ, तुम तीनों क्या हुआ? कुछ प्रॉब्लम है? तो प्रॉब्लम है तो मुझसे पूछो, आपस में क्यों डिस्कस कर रहे हो अननेसेसरीली? हाँ, in lamina propria, as I said, in case of esophagus, what is present? Finger like projections are there and these are called as papillae. Now this papillae, what it will do? It will project into the lining epithelium. जो लेमिना प्रोप्रिया है उसमें क्या रहता है? फिंगर लाइक प्रोजेक्शन, दिस आर कॉल्ड एज पेपिले, which will project into the lining epithelium and it will hold the lining epithelium so that the lining epithelium cannot be separated from the lamina propria. Why? Because continuous friction is taking place, so lining epithelium can be separated. Okay, for that this finger like projections are given. Okay, next below the lamina propria, which layer is this? Which layer is this? Muscularis mucosae. See, muscularis mucosae is there, and as I said, in esophagus muscularis mucosae is not well developed. Okay, only one layer, that is longitudinal layer, is present, which is quite thicker. Next below that you can see submucosa is there. See, this is the submucosa where dense irregular connective tissue is present. Along with that you can see esophageal glands. ये देखो, can you see, these are the esophageal glands, mucus secreting esophageal glands are there. ठीक है, now this is very important because this particular glands, उससे जो secretion होगा, that will lubricate so that the food can pass easily. Okay, so this is the submucosa. Below the submucosa, what is this? Muscularis externa. Muscularis externa. तो in case of GIT muscularis externa में कितना layers रहता है? Two distinct layers are there, inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. Clearly it can be seen. Okay, and below that you can see adventitial layer is there. Okay, जहाँ पे blood vessels, nerves, all those things will be present. Now please note that in case of esophagus, especially in muscularis externa, if you see the upper part of the esophagus, it is completely made up of skeletal muscle, not smooth muscle. It is made up of skeletal muscle. Middle third of the esophagus is made up of both smooth as well as skeletal muscle. Okay, and if you take the lower one third of the esophagus, then it is only made up of smooth muscle. These are the differences in case of esophagus. You will not get all smooth muscle throughout the length of the esophagus. Other part smooth muscles are there. For example, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, smooth muscles are present. Okay, but in case of esophagus, ऊपर में क्या रहता है? Completely skeletal muscle. Middle में mixed होता है, smooth as well as skeletal, and in the lower third only smooth muscles are present. That you have to mention whenever you are writing about the esophagus. Okay, so lining epithelium is stratified squamous non-keratinized. Okay, lamina propria, loose connective tissue with papillae, that is finger-like processes. Already I mentioned. Now this helps to prevent the separation of epithelium from underlying connective tissue. That's why the finger-like projections are there. The muscularis mucosa consists of only longitudinal smooth muscle fiber. As I said, it is not well developed in case of esophagus. Submucosa में क्या रहता है? Dense irregular connective tissue. Along with that, we can see bundles of elastic fibers, okay, collagen fibers, blood vessels, and nerves. And because of this particular fibers, the lumen is folded. That's why irregular or star-shaped appearance can be seen of the submucosa. And along with that, we can also see mucus secreting esophageal glands. So I have shown you the cut section of the glands. Okay. Next, muscularis externa is there. So see, muscularis externa composed of striated muscle in the upper third, mixed in the middle and smooth in the lower third. Okay. So this particular part you have to mention in the practical notebook also and in the exam if you are writing about the esophagus. Okay. And next, adventitia, connective tissue with capillaries, and lower 1 inch or approximately 3 centimeter is covered by peritoneum where you can see the serosa. ठीक है, तो ये भी mention करना है. So that is all about the esophagus. Next, what comes next after esophagus? Esophagus के बाद क्या आता है? Stomach. Now before going to the stomach, let me show you this diagram. So this is the schematic diagram, ठीक है? That means this you have to draw in your practical notebook. ये note करके रखो. ये वाला diagram. This part you don't have to draw. This is for your understanding. This part you have to draw in your practical notebook. All the layers are shown. Okay, you can see all the layers present. Similarly you have to draw in your practical notebook. Is it clear? Next, here you can see. This is the esophagus under low magnification. This is under high magnification. This is original histological images. Can you identify all the layers? ये देखो, which layer is this? Mucosa. In mucosa, which layer? This is the lining epithelium. So you can see this is the stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. Then here you can see the lamina propria. Can you see the finger-like projection papillae which is going inside the lining epithelium? Okay. Which will prevent the separation of the lining epithelium. Next, here you can see this is the lamina propria. ये देखो, this is the lamina propria, where only one single layer is seen. That is a longitudinal one, which is quite thick. Next, which layer is this? Submucosa. Here you can see the submucosal glands, esophageal glands. These are nothing but the mucus secreting glands. Next, which layer is this? Muscularis externa, where you can see inner circular and outer longitudinal layer. Okay, and lastly you can see the adventitia. Okay, this diagram is important. Why? This will help you to understand the layers, okay, when you will see in the microscope. Okay, next is the histology of stomach. So in histology of stomach, how many layers will be there? 4 layers will be there. Okay, again you can see 4 layers are there. Okay. So see, lining epithelium mucosa, where lining epithelium lamina propria, muscularis mucosa, submucosa, muscle coat are also called as muscularis externa, and serosa. Now here I have not written adventitia. Why? Yes, because stomach is a intraperitoneal organ. Okay? But in case of duodenum, you will see that it will be adventitia, because we know that duodenum is a retroperitoneal organ. Okay? Now this is the schematic diagram. And these are histological images. Okay. Now with the help of the schematic diagram, please try to understand all the layers. So first you can see this is the mucosa, where lining epithelium can be seen. After that, this is the lamina propria. Now in case of stomach, most of the lamina propria are packed, or you can say it is completely, almost completely occupied by different types of glands, which are called as gastric glands. स्टमक का जो लेमिना प्रोप्रिया होता है, लाइनिंग एपिथेलियम के नीचे क्या रहता है? लेमिना प्रोप्रिया. इन केस ऑफ स्टमक जो लेमिना प्रोप्रिया है, इट इज ऑलमोस्ट ऑक्युपाइड बाय व्हाट? गैस्ट्रिक ग्लैंड्स. It is almost occupied by gastric glands. As you can see, gastric glands, cut section of the gastric gland. Now below the gastric glands, below the lamina propria, what is present? Muscularis mucosae. Okay, you can see these are the muscularis mucosae. ये देखो muscularis mucosae. Okay. Next, after muscularis mucosa, what you can see? Submucosa. So this is the submucosa where blood vessels are there, but you can't see any gland. कोई भी gland दिखाई नहीं देगा. So when you will see the slide of the stomach, okay, similarly you can see some cut sections. So those will be the cut sections of blood vessels, not glands. ठीक है. Next below that, this is the muscularis externa. तो muscularis externa में as you can see 3 distinct layers are there. तो first innermost will be the oblique layer, then middle one is the circular and outer is the longitudinal layer. So already I mentioned in case of stomach 3 distinct layers are present in case of muscularis externa. In between them you will see the myenteric plexus, okay, and यहाँ पे Meissner's plexus भी रहेगा, ठीक है. All those things will be there, but what is special in case of stomach that I am showing you, okay, and followed by here what you will get, you will be getting the serosa, okay. So like this you have to find out, you have to understand about each and every layer of the stomach. What do you think, what will be the lining epithelium? Lining epithelium क्या होगा? Simple columnar epithelium, that also mucus secreting, okay. Now I hope you have seen the simple columnar epithelium. If you have seen the simple columnar epithelium, lining epithelium. Now in case of lining epithelium, so you have to understand the thing. In case of trachea or in case of respiratory system, we have seen that separately along with the lining epithelium goblet cells are there. And how we have differentiated that goblet cell? That particular part was empty. यहाँ पे सेपरेटली गॉबलेट सेल्स नहीं रहता है और म्यूकस सिक्रेटिंग सेल्स नहीं रहता है, बट द लाइनिंग एपिथेलियम इज केपेबल ऑफ डूइंग दैट जॉब, ठीक है, ओवर हियर. दैट्स व्हाई वी आर गेटिंग टॉल कोल्यूमिनर एपिथेलियल सेल. नाउ इन केस ऑफ टॉल कोल्यूमिनर एपिथेलियम सेल इन स्टमक व्हाट हैपेंस, वेयर द न्यूक्लियस इज सिचुएटेड एट द बेसल पार्ट. तो जो ऊपर वाला पार्ट है, ओके, ऊपर वाला जो पार्ट है इसमें म्यूसिन रहता है, ओके, यहाँ पे क्या रहता है? म्यूसिन रहता है. फ्रॉम देयर द म्यूकस इज सिक्रेटेड, द म्यूकस इज कमिंग आउट फ्रॉम द सेल. whenever the preparation is done of that particular slide of that particular tissue, at that time the mucus is the mucin are washed away. That's why the upper part is appearing empty in nature or vacuolated in case of lining epithelium, okay. With the help of H&E stain you can't see the mucin. For that a special type of stain is required and that is called as PAS method. Okay, a special type of staining method is there. If you use that method, then उसके ऊपर वाला part में जो mucin है that can be seen, and that method is called PAS, periodic acid skiff method. Okay. In H&E staining you can't see. So see, lining epithelium is columnar and mucus secreting. Okay, separately you are not getting any cell to secrete the mucus. Apical part are filled with mucin, usually removed during the processing of the tissue. That's why they look empty or vacuolated. Okay. Now ये जो particular secretion है, ये mucus secretion है, उसका function क्या है? Protection. It will protect the stomach. तो stomach से continuously acid secrete होता है, HCl. Okay, to protect the mucosa, the mucus secretion is required. Okay, so this particular mucus which is secreted from the lining epithelium, it is for protection. Okay, it is for protection. Next, mucus secreted by the cells of the lining epithelium protects the gastric mucosa against acid and the enzymes which are secreted from the gastric glands. Next, at numerous places the lining epithelium will dip into the lamina propria to form a depression that is called as gastric pits. Already you have studied. And deep to the gastric pits, what are there? Gastric glands are present. Okay, 3 different types of glands are there. What are they? As you can see, main gastric gland, cardiac gland and pyloric gland. Okay, in stomach 3 distinct type of glands are present. Okay, gastric, pyloric and cardiac. Most of the stomach is occupied by main gastric gland. Most of the stomach, ठीक है. और जितना भी secretion हो रहा है, enzyme का secretion, acid का secretion, from where they are taking place? From the main gastric gland. Okay, that's why we will focus on main gastric gland, where different types of cells are there, where different secretions are taking place. Next, if you see the cardiac and pyloric, mainly they are mucus secreting glands, means वहाँ से mucus secrete होता है. that is also important, mostly for protection, mostly for protection. Okay, now yeah, so here you can see this is a 3D diagram where you can understand this is the lumen of the stomach, okay, where you can see these are the gastric pits. Now deep to the gastric pits you can see it, the lamina propria is packed with numerous gastric glands. ठीक है, ये तो gastric glands है, तो gastric glands से जो secretion होता है it will come out and into the surface it comes out through the gastric pits. Okay, now here different types of cells are present, you can see different types of cells are there which will secrete enzymes, then hormones, then HCl, okay, all those things are secreted. So a list of cells are there, along with that where they are located, okay, and what is the function, a list is there, we will see that list. So please try to keep that in mind. जो stomach होता है उसमें 3 different types of gastric glands are there. Okay, now some glands are present at the cardiac end of the stomach, these are called as cardiac gland. Some are situated over here, these are called as pyloric gland. So glands है, but what is their main function? Only they will secrete mucus for protection. Remaining जितना part है stomach का, starting from the fundus to entire body, उसमें gastric glands are there, main gastric glands. वहाँ से जितना secretion है stomach का, these are taking place, okay, which is required for digestion. So now we will see about the gland. Now see this particular glands, they are still in the lamina propria. ये जो gastric glands है कहाँ पे रहता है? lamina propria में ही रहता है. Most of the lamina propria are covered or occupied by the gastric glands. That's why very small or you can say scanty amount of this connective tissue is present in the lamina propria, mostly occupied by gastric glands. Now here you can see the cells of the gastric glands. So these are the different types of cells present in the gastric glands. Okay, so first you can see mucous neck cells, chief cell or zymosome cell, parietal cell or oxyntic cell, enteroendocrine cells, and the stem cells. These are the different types of cells which are present in the main gastric glands. Okay, now mucous neck cell, this is another type of mucus secreting cell. Now the question is, we have already seen mucus is secreted from the lining epithelium, which is for protection, right? Then again, why we need this kind of cells? See, from lining epithelium, the mucus which is secreted, have you understood what I have written? दो टाइप का म्यूकस सिक्रेटिंग सेल्स होता है, वन फ्रॉम लाइनिंग इपिथेलियम, अनदर इज म्यूकस नेक सेल. तो यहाँ से जो म्यूकस सिक्रेट होगा इसका फंक्शन क्या है? प्रोटेक्शन, प्रोटेक्शन अगेंस्ट एंजाइम, प्रोटेक्शन अगेंस्ट एसिड. यस, एंड व्हाट अबाउट द म्यूकस नेक सेल? यहाँ से जो म्यूकस सिक्रेट होगा दैट इज फॉर लुब्रिकेशन. ओके, दैट्स वाई टू डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ mucus secreting cells are there, and two different types of mucus are there. One is insoluble, another one is soluble. Okay, next, so here you can see mucous neck cell, where it is situated, neck of the gland. If you see the feature, identifying feature, these are columnar cell with oval nucleus. Function already I have mentioned, lubrication. Lifespan is approximately 6 days. Now chief cell, this is very important, these two cells are very important. ठीक है, chief cell का location कहाँ है? Lower third of the gland. So if you take the gland in the lower part, you will be getting the chief cells. Okay, what is identifying feature? It is dark basophilic cytoplasm, and here you can see dark acidophilic cytoplasm. Like this we can differentiate with the help of H&E stain only. Now what is the function? It will secrete pepsinogen. इसका function क्या है? Pepsinogen in the presence of acid will become pepsin. Pepsin का function क्या है? Breakdown of the protein into peptides. okay, so that the protein digestion can take place. And here you can see these are the lifespan. Next, parietal cell, upper part of the gland, the parietal cells are present, dark acidophilic cytoplasm. What is the main function? It will produce HCl. Along with that, it is also producing a polypeptide that is called as intrinsic factor of Castle. Intrinsic factor of Castle, ये क्या है? It is a polypeptide. इसका function क्या है? It helps in absorption of vitamin B12. Helps in absorption of vitamin B12 from the intestine. Stomach से absorb नहीं होता है. Absorb कहाँ से होता है? Intestine से होता है. But for that, intrinsic factor of Castle is required, okay, to absorb the vitamin B12, and it is a polypeptide. Next, if there is deficiency of vitamin B12, तो क्या होगा? Pernicious anemia. Next, you can see enteroendocrine cells are there. It is situated at the lower part of the gland. Silver staining. You can't stain the enteroendocrine cell with the help of H&E. For that, silver salts are required, mainly silver nitrate. That's why they are also called as argentaphine cells. Okay. इसका function क्या है? You can see it secretes hormone, gastrin hormone, serotonin, histamine. Can anyone tell me what are the functions of these hormones? No. Listen. ये जो gastrin है and histamine है, दोनों का function opposite to each other. Gastrin mainly it will inhibit the motility, inhibit the secretion. और जो histamine है, what it will do? It will enhance the motility mainly, and it will enhance the secretion, gastric secretion. Okay. Next, ये जो serotonin है, it is a neurotransmitter for enteric nervous system, or also called as ENS, enteric nervous system. Okay. There is a drug that is called ranitidine. Have you heard about it? Anyone? Yeah, some student you have heard, some student you have not heard. See, whenever I hope you have heard about this one, pantoprazole, omeprazole, all those things. So these are right now. It is not the time to discuss about all those things, but it is there is an interesting fact. That's why I am mentioning this. Okay. So pantoprazole, omeprazole, all those drugs comes under proton pump inhibitor. There is a category called PPI, proton pump inhibitor. Okay, that also inhibits the secretion, but uska jo mechanism hai, that is different. Another is very simple mechanism is there by which we can inhibit the secretion of this particular histamine. Okay, and in these particular cells there is a receptor present. It is called H2 receptor. So whenever a person is taking that particular drug, that is ranitidine, that will go and bind with the H2 receptor, and that H2 receptor will inhibit the secretion of the histamine. As a result, the gastric secretion will reduced. Okay. So and this ranitidine was a largest selling drug. Okay, it was largest selling drug before those PPI came into the market. Okay, this is also effective, ranitidine. Okay, brand name is I think Zintec or something like this. I forgot the brand name. Okay, but the composition is ranitidine. Okay, so here you can see the lifespan. Next, stem cell. So stem cell normal जो function होता है, if there is any damage for healing proliferation, this stem cell will function. Main location you can see neck of the gland, and stem cell को directly you can't stain it. For that immunocytochemistry is required to identify the stem cell. Okay, so these are the different types of cells present in the gastric gland, main gastric gland जहाँ से main secretions होता है. जो अदर ग्लैंड से उसमें क्या होता है? कार्डियक ग्लैंड एंड पाइलोरिक ग्लैंड, म्यूकस सिक्रेटिंग ग्लैंड. ओनली म्यूकस इज सिक्रेटेड, दैट आल्सो फॉर प्रोटेक्शन. So you can see cardiac glands and pyloric glands are there. So in case of cardiac glands, small, okay, near the opening of the esophagus, where this particular cardiac glands are there. Okay. Now cardiac glands are either simple tubular or compound tubuloalveolar gland. This is a type of the gland which are present at the cardiac end. Now they are mainly mucus secreting, and occasionally oxygenetic or peptic cells are there, but it is rare. Next, in case of pyloric, it is, you can see branched tubular glands or coiled. Okay, branched tubular gland as well as they are coiled. Now occasionally oxygenetic and argentaphine cells are there, but mostly they are mucus secreting cells. Where they are present? They are present at the pyloric end of the stomach. Now you have to understand one thing. जो cardiac end होता है and pyloric end होता है, okay, after that इन द कार्डियक एंड इसोफेगस इज देयर, पाइलोरिक एंड में क्या है, डिओडेनम इज देयर. उसका जो म्यूकोजा है इट इज नॉट सेम लाइक द स्टमक एंड द मीडियम ऑफ द स्टमक इज एसिडिक. So if regurgitation takes place, then what will happen? The gastric content will go into the esophagus. Okay. As a result, the esophageal mucosa can get damaged. For that protection, these mucus secreting cells are there. Okay. Same for the duodenum also. But in case of duodenum, separate duodenal glands are there. That's why sometime if the acidic content refluxes and it goes to the esophagus, okay, every time the esophageal mucosa doesn't get damaged. Okay, we can feel that something burning sensation is there which is called as heartburn, but doesn't mean that esophageal mucosa is completely damaged. Protections are there but not like the stomach. Next, lamina propria. Already I have told you lamina propria में क्या रहता है, it is very scanty, the connective tissue, because mainly it is packed with glands, the glands which are present, gastric gland, whatever we have discussed. Next, muscularis mucosa, it is very important, it is well developed in stomach. Okay, as a part from usual circular layer and longitudinal layer, additional circular layer may be present outside the longitudinal layer. So inner circular, outer longitudinal, and in stomach sometime additional circular layer may be present, okay, which is well developed in case of stomach. Why? Because whatever the contents are there of the stomach, it should mix properly with the food. That's why this layer is given. Next, submucosa, so consists of loose irregular tissue where you can see blood vessels, lymphatics and nerve plexus are there, okay, in the submucosa. But here you can't see any glands are not there. Next, in the muscularis externa of the stomach, it is well developed, okay. So how many layers are there in the muscularis externa? 3 distinct layers are there. That is, first we will be getting the oblique layer, then circular layer and then longitudinal layer. Next, there is a modification. What is that modification? जो circular layer होता है that is thickened at the pyloric end to form the pyloric sphincter. Okay. Another important modification is there, that is inverted U-shaped loop of the oblique layer. Okay. Now because of this, whenever the contraction of the stomach is taking place during peristalsis, okay, the angulation between the cardiac end and the esophagus is becoming more acute, and it prevents the regurgitation of the gastric content into the esophagus because of the presence of this inverted U-shaped loop. Okay, that is also a modification. Next, you can see between the layers a nerve plexus is there, that is called the myenteric plexus. Okay, now this plexus is also important because this controls the motility, the peristalsis movement of the stomach. And lastly, we are getting the serous coat. Serous coat is made up of peritoneum, okay, where you can see the mesothelial cells. Now here you can see the layers of the stomach, muscularis externa. 3 distinct layers you can see, the longitudinal layer, oblique layer and the circular layer. Okay, these 3 layers. Now this is the microscopic structure where you can see the oblique layer, circular layer and longitudinal layer, 3 distinct layers. But in every view, okay, the oblique identification of the oblique layer is quite difficult. Now there are some books where I have seen that the stomach is explained separately, or it is categorized into 3 different regions. First is the cardiac end of the stomach, then fundus or body of the stomach and the pylorus of the stomach. Okay. So if you see the difference between all 3 regions, microscopic difference, okay, where the difference lies? Mainly into the lamina propria, into the gastric glands. Okay, there will be differences in the cell, there will be differences in the secretion. Next difference you can see in the muscularis externa. Okay, in muscularis externa, here the sphincters will be formed, here sphincters will not be there. Okay, like this the difference will be there. Next, another difference is there in the gastric pits. तो यहाँ पे जो gastric pits रहेगा उसका जो depth है it will be shallow, depth will be less. यहाँ पे average रहता है, यहाँ पे depth सबसे ज़्यादा होता है in case of pylorus of the stomach. Okay, these are some differences. So whatever we have discussed, this is the gist of the story. Okay, everything is there. So please go through it, you will understand whatever we have discussed. Now this is the gastroesophageal junction. I was mentioning about this. Here you can see the part of the esophagus and this is the part of the stomach. ठीक है, So see the lining epithelium, it is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium, and see this is the simple columnar epithelium. Now try to differentiate. Just see the simple columnar epithelium, how it appears, okay, and see the stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium, okay. This is important. So this is the which part of the stomach? Cardiac end of the stomach, ठीक है. तो यहाँ पे जो glands है in the lamina propria, mainly these are cardiac gland, mucus secreting gland. जो gastric pits है उसका depth भी कम है, as you can see the depth is very less. This is the schematic diagram, okay. And this is the histological diagram where you can see these are the lining epithelium, and here you can see these are the pits, okay. Next these are the glands, cardiac glands, ठीक है. Next this is the muscularis mucosa, ये देखो this is the muscularis mucosa, ये पूरा submucosa है, okay. And then this is the muscularis externa, and यहाँ पे serosa है. So this is the cardiac part of the stomach. Next this is the fundus of the stomach, okay. Now in the fundus of the stomach also you can see the depth of the gastric pits are more as compared to the cardiac end. You can see the depth, it is more, okay. So same lining epithelium will be there, then pits are there, देखो these are the pits, then these are the glands, okay. See these are the gastric glands, ठीक है. Next this is the muscularis mucosae, this is the muscularis mucosa, and see the submucosa. Now here in the submucosa you will not see any gland, कोई भी gland नहीं रहता है. Instead of that cut section of the blood vessels can be seen, and then this is the muscularis externa, okay. In muscularis externa two distinct layers can be seen easily, and then this is the serosa, okay. ये low magnification में है, this is for high magnification, and this is the schematic diagram. What about this? This is the pyloric end of the stomach, where just see the depth of the pits, okay. These are more as compared to the other two parts, and here also only mucus secreting glands are there, okay. Pyloric glands are there, okay. Here also you can see the submucosa, this is the muscularis externa, okay. So in practical notebook which diagrams you have to draw for stomach, ठीक है. 3 diagram अलग से draw करना है for cardiac end, fundus and body and the pyloric end, ठीक है. So schematic diagram जितना है तीनों draw करना है. This one you have to draw, okay. Note down करके रखो, ये diagram draw करना है. Then this diagram you have to draw, this diagram you have to draw, okay. Next this you have to mention, don't forget to mention about this. This also you have to mention, this one you have to mention, okay, about the cells of the gastric gland. An explanation whatever it is mentioned given over there, this you don't have to draw, ये नहीं चाहिए, okay. An explanation whatever it is there you have to write in the practical notebook, ये नहीं चाहिए, this one is not required, okay. Now we'll go to the lab and we'll see the slides.